Welcome everybody. Join me in any comfortable seated position. I have chosen to sit on my heels, Vajrasana, the Thunderbolt. Not for everyone. You could put a towel underneath your legs, your knees for example, or your heels. That would be above your heels. But it's fine to sit in any way you like. Just make sure you're elevated enough to straighten the spine, to feel a lot of space in the front of the upper body, so that you can actually follow your breath and feel it and feel that expansion, not just in the chest or around the chest and rib cage, but also and especially in your stomach. And you might gently guide your breaths and then start bringing the head over to the left side, so ear to shoulder. The hands, as always, are optional, so that left hand could rest on the head, add a little bit of weight. Right hand could be on the ground. You could move into your wrist. And raising that arm a little bit will make you feel this all the way into the shoulder, if you want to. And then as we're stretching the fingers apart, we can rotate, not just for the wrist, but for the shoulder as well. And relaxing the right hand, if you used it, bring the chin towards your armpit. As always, my reminder, this isn't an exact science. I want you to feel comfortable and feel like you're stretching in a way that's comfortable for you, helpful to you. So go somewhere else if this isn't quite right, maybe to the collarbone. Try out where you want to be and whether it's appropriate for you to have that left hand there at the back of the head. And then maybe both hands behind the head. The back stays straight, hopefully you can see that. And it's just the head that is getting heavy, chin towards the sternum and shoulders relaxed. And then we'll go for the other side, remembering that the hands, the arms are optional, and if we use them, it should be a comfortable stretch, something that's not too deep. And the hands could just rest in the lap otherwise. Again, more important is the fact that we're comfortable in the way that we're sitting here as well, that the spine is straight, or the back rather is straight. Obviously the cervical spine is not. So yeah, if sitting on the heels is not your thing and you're crossing the legs but you feel like you're rounding, then maybe you want to sit on something, just elevate yourself a little bit. Could be a block, could be anything else as well. And optional, again, moving into the wrist, raising that hand a little bit, and then fingers spread wide, opening and dropping the palm, maybe bringing it all the way to the back. Just depends on that flexibility in the wrist and shoulder. And release that left hand and maybe bring the right hand to the back of the head to guide the chin towards the collarbone or armpit. And then nice and slowly let the chin come all the way towards the chest, maybe bringing the hands to the back of the head. If you didn't do it the first time, try and see if you want to do that now. Back stays straight for a little bit longer, and then we slowly, really slowly round the back, bringing the elbows towards the hips rather than towards the knees, rather than towards the front. And just as slowly, we come up and push the elbows to the back, raise the head. So you want your hands at the back of the head now, so that it's comfortable enough to draw circles with your chin, with your nose. And if circles aren't comfortable, then half circles. But the hands are there to support you, to make this more comfortable, so that there's not the weight of the heavy head. As we know, we've got heavy heads. I apparently have the heaviest head in the world, as one of my friends told me ages ago. And my husband agrees. Chin towards the chest as we roll into the shoulders with that W position of the arms. And then the head goes up, the arms go up, and we pull the left wrist over to the right side. Breathing into the left side of the body. And then going a little bit deeper, dropping the right hand, reaching that left arm further over. Your hips can be part of this stretch as well. You can push them over to the left. And then other side. First just stretching up and over, not as far. Make sure where you're looking is comfortable. A little bit up will be nice because it'll help you push that arm to the back as well. And then deepening by bringing that left hand to the ground and reaching the right arm over to the left side. And we release and come back. Inhale, raise your arms. Exhale, push the elbows down. Inhale, raise the arms. Exhale, back into that W shape. The head can move along with the hands, up and down, but doesn't have to. And if it does, even though there's that strength in the arms, you want the neck relaxed. Come forwards, pull your left wrist to the right side, round back, dropped head. And then over to the other side. We keep the head dropped, we keep the back rounded. Space for your breath to expand in the back. And then inhale, back up. Exhale, float the arms down, and we come onto all fours. Breathe in, left arm goes up, breathe out, hand comes down. And we draw those circles, inhaling and exhaling as we move through this. And stay up there. And slowly come into a variation of a side plank. Just a half side plank, if you will, opening up towards the left side. And then that left arm goes over to the right side, knees on the ground, right arm goes up and over to the back if you want. But find a place for that right hand where you're comfortable, where you may need it. And some of you might want to straighten the right leg as well. Sometimes that's easier, nicer, more comfortable, or deeper, whatever you want to do here. Back onto all fours. And surprise, surprise, we'll be doing the other side. Inhaling, arm goes up. Exhaling, arm comes down. So drawing that circle as we breathe gently into the body. And next time you go up, stay up there. No, did I do more on this side than the other? Never mind. Right, now we're going to stay up there for a couple of breaths. And then from there, send the arm over to the left side and twist in a way that is comfortable for you. May look different than on the other side. If it feels different, go for replicating what the other side felt like. Go for a good feeling in the body. And slowly come back onto all fours. Asana. Inhale, arch your back. Exhale, round your back. Inhale, arch as the head goes up or just to the front. Exhale, round as the head drops. And we keep going, letting the breath guide the movement. Maybe bringing the fingertips onto the ground, so just the fingertips with the rest of the hand up. Might be too much. It's fine if you don't want to do that. And palms back onto the ground. And fingers turn to the sides as we move ourselves from side to side, shoulders and hips guiding the way in movements that feel good for us. Fingertips towards each other, elbows out as you drop down, touching the ground or hovering, and back up. And a few more. Decide if you need that release onto the ground or not. And then this one's probably the hardest, fingertips towards the knees, so you don't have to go all the way, could be a diagonal. And then if you can, if that's possible, push the elbows towards the legs and hold. This is of course very, very deep. Now tops of the hands onto the ground, fingertips towards you, round your back. If one hand after the other is all that you can do, then that's fine. Don't overload your wrists. And then back to that original position. We inhale and raise the right leg. Exhale, bring the knee to the right shoulder. Breathe in, leg goes up. This time exhale, knee to the dropped head. Inhale, leg goes up. Exhale, knee to the left side. Breathe in, leg goes up. Stays. And we slowly send the left arm to the front and grab hold of the right foot. If that's not your thing, left arm to the front, right leg to the back is fine as well. If you want to look to the back here, to the left and to the back, great. If not, then just keep looking to the front. Making sure you don't sink into the right shoulder as you stay and hold. Release and change sides. Left leg up, left knee to the left shoulder. Inhale and arch. Exhale, knee to the dropped head. Breathe in, arch. Breathe out, knee to the right side. And inhale, leg goes up and stays. Right hand can walk forwards as well and stay on the ground, an option that I should have given on the other side. But yeah, if you want to go for that bind, go for it. If not, there's options to make this a little less intense. Hand on the ground, foot on the ground, for example, would work as well. And a nice long left arm. Release and move into your body a little bit in a way that lets you get rid of any tension, any feelings in the body that you want to get rid of. And then child's pose here with the chin or forehead on the ground. And slowly from here, we come up again onto all fours, arching the back and rounding the back, tucking the toes under and making our way into Asana. Parvat, the mountain. Getting warm in the backs of the legs by paddling a little bit. And then focusing on pressing the shoulders to the back and up. So straight line if we can, that we're keeping up as the right leg goes up. So shoulders want to stay strong. We move into the toes, we move into the foot, the ankle. And we end up flexing the foot and dropping the heel, deeper for the hip, for the quad. Shoulders stay strong. And we keep breathing. Now look to the front and step to the front, dropping your left knee to the ground and making your way into Anjani Asana, into a low lunge. Relax the top of the foot onto the ground here. There is an option, I can't remember whether I'm giving it or not, too long ago this, where you press the top of the left foot into the ground and raise the left knee off the ground. Maybe that was on a second round. Doesn't mean you can't do it now if you want. So freestyle, do what you like. Use that time in every long hold to connect with your breath, something we really never do during the day, because we're all busy. When do we ever take time out for that? Slowly release and tuck your back toes under to bring the whole of the foot onto the ground and come up into Virabhadrasana, the hero Bhadra gracious Virabhadrasana, the asana of the warrior that is Shiva, an avatar of Shiva, angry Shiva, avenging not just his honor but also the death of his wife Sati, who is Shakti in human form. So they're not just God and Goddess together, but they're destined to be together on earth as well. Shakti, or Sati's father, human father, did not agree. Wasn't a fan of Shiva and his dreadlocks and his half-naked state and all of that. And that goes back to two different factions, maybe that's the wrong word, factions in Hinduism. The one that wants the order and the one that wants chaos, and we kind of need both, but this is that dichotomy between the two of them. Now interlock your hands, squeeze your shoulder blades. This one not part of the traditional warriors, called a humble warrior. The reason that isn't part of it is because that whole story is not about humility. It is about learning humility or learning to control your emotions. But this humble warrior, where we're coming forwards, is not part of the sequence of the warriors. It's Shiva arriving to exact his revenge in the guise of Virabhadra, and that is warrior one, where he arrives with all his strength and the arms are up and he's strong, like we are strong when we are raising the arms like that. And then opening up into warrior two is him drawing his sword, killing his father-in-law. And then into warrior three would be him either picking up the head of his father-in-law, or when he's learned the error of his ways, adding a new head, the head of a goat, for his father-in-law to bring him back to life. What we're going to do from here is parivrit. No, actually this is not parivritti konasana. I was terribly wrong. We're in a pyramid here, parsvuttanasana. So straightening the right leg and hands either onto that right leg or towards the left leg. Of course, this is the deepest version, but earlier when I was still thinking we were going into that revolved triangle, because I know nothing, that is where the hands were further at the front, and obviously that is an option as well. See how your hamstrings are doing. I've been doing a lot of running the other day, and I can really feel that in my calves and hamstrings. So maybe now I would be looking a little bit different than I did back then. Hands come back, could be on the ground. And this time I was ahead of myself. We're coming into revolved triangle, parivritti konasana, making sure that that back foot, not just the toes, but the whole of the foot, the heel stays on the ground as well. And then of course we could let that left hand wander further and further to the right hand, to the right foot, sorry. I'm all over the place, aren't I? And slightly more wobbly probably, but that left hand could also be on the outside of the right leg. Hand comes down, and we bring both hands to the inside of the foot, so we can sink down into a lunge, with that right foot going a little bit further out to accommodate the hands, to open up the hip a bit more, and we could come a little bit further down. So chaturanga arms is an option here if you can't bring the forearms to the ground, or if you just want to strengthen your triceps a little bit more. Try to keep that left leg straight and the knee off the ground. But if that's not for you, of course, adapt. Let your left hip just not drop all the way. Keep it high enough. You want the right hip to guide the way down. And then slowly back onto the hands. We raise the right arm in a slightly more open or wider twisted lunge. Notice the difference between breathing and observing the breath. And slowly release. Hand comes down, right foot steps to the back, and we land in a plank dandasana. Long arms, strong shoulders. And wonderfully held, I'm sure, everybody. Knees, chest, chin from here. Drop the knees, hips are high. You want that little arch in the back. Fingertips might be on the ground, might be the whole of the hand. We squeeze the shoulder blades, we push the elbows towards each other. And we might, if we want to, adjust this, deepen it, for example, by walking the hands, by walking the feet and knees further in to increase that compression in the lumbar spine. Chin on the ground unless that's uncomfortable, and we could turn the head to one side. And we slowly release. Hands on the ground, drop your hips, long legs, raise your chest, roll the shoulders to the back and bring them down. We're also pushing the elbows towards each other in the same way as we did in Ashtanga Namaskar. Here we do the same in Bhujangasana or the Cobra. Now, as we deepen, if we do, and we raise ourselves higher but keep the arms slightly bent, we want to make sure that we're particularly aware of the breath, and the way that we're breathing shouldn't change, should not feel constricted, should not be labored. So hold the posture, never the breath, unless otherwise told, unless it's deliberate. Tuck your toes under, push the hips up. We're back in Parvatasana, mountain pose. Downward dog if you want, or even a triangle in Kundalini tradition. And because you're very intelligent, you'll know what's coming. Left leg up. Same thing here, a little bit of movement into the toes and the ankle. Shoulders stay strong and press to the back and up. And then we flex the foot, drop the heel. And from here we look to the front and step to the front, dropping the right knee, untucking the toes, making our way into Anjani Asana, the little Hanuman. Arms up. And see where you want to be here. If you'd like to close the eyes, if you might want to press the top of the foot into the ground to raise your right knee. And then start observing the breath. Slowly get ready to come out of this posture. Last couple of breaths. And we release the hands to the ground. Step or tuck the right foot under, and then step that foot firmly onto the ground to come up into Warrior One. And from our angry Shiva avatar into that humble Veerbhadra, interlocking the hands, squeezing the shoulder blades, and slowly taking the torso forwards and down into a humble warrior. Taking our time and keeping our breath steady as we make our way into Parsvottanasana, into the pyramid with the hands wherever they can get to, wherever they're comfortable. Reach for the right foot. You want to make sure it looks a little bit like I'm opening up to the right side, and that's fine. It's not about how it looks, but you want to make sure that there's a little bit of a push of the right hip to the front. Slowly coming into Parivrit Trikonasana from here. Right hand on the ground, on the outside or inside of the left foot as that left arm goes up. And from here, smoothly into the lizard pose with the arms on the inside of the left leg, coming down, Uttan Prishtasana. Actually not lizard at all, that's just the English word for this posture. It's a flat sheet of paper. There you go. Can we try to be a flat sheet of paper? I don't know, I don't think so. So this also, at some point, that is the aim, left knee out, far out, so that that left hip can rest on the ground. Then that right leg could be on the ground. Then the whole of the torso, the front of the upper body can touch the ground. But for the moment, maybe just as much as you can do right now. And then hands back onto the ground, if indeed they weren't, and we twist, raising the left arm, looking up if that's comfortable, closing the eyes if we like. We can play around with a lot of things here. Nothing needs to happen, nothing must happen, but everything can. And elegantly from here, we make our way into Dandasana, a plank, the plank, not just any plank, our plank. And we hold and breathe. Feel that breath in the stomach, even though you're engaging the core. Yes, the breath has changed, but there's still movement in the stomach. Now, if you're still with me in that plank, drop the knees. Maybe you've done that already, and come into child's pose. Just give yourself a little bit of time to notice how you're feeling. Relax your arms. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed as well. So for that, you could obviously have the arms by your sides there as well, but the shoulders drop, they're heavy. And then we come back into Parvattasana, mountain pose. And we inhale and raise the right leg. Stay up there and get long, very nice and long, toes pointing to the ceiling. We could imagine someone pulling those toes up while we're grounding ourselves with that left foot and the hands. And we take that time, every time in the posture, to observe the breath, to give ourselves that space and time to know what's going on. Step the right foot forwards and keep your left heel off the ground, so we're coming up into Asana. Now this is completely up to you, as indeed is you just being here. So always remember that. But if you want to, you could be closing the eyes here, nice and slowly, seeing if that worked at all. And always entertaining the notion that your body is very different today than it was yesterday, etc. And here as well, as you're opening up into Warrior 2, you could keep the eyes closed, you could open them. We try and keep the hands high. They could maybe even be higher than the shoulders. Try not to let them drop lower. You want that feeling of being active, and then let the arms get heavy. Allow them to be heavy and feel that heaviness. And as always, make sure that that right knee doesn't turn inwards. You want to gently push it out. And then we straighten the right leg and drop into Trikona Asana. The triangle, 3 angles. And we might, from here, obviously there's many different options. You can hover the bottom hand, you could hold onto the leg, you could be much higher than me here. You could send that top arm to the front rather than reach it up towards the ceiling. The thing that's non-negotiable is that awareness of the breath. That really is the most important thing. We remember that breath tells us everything we need to know. Not everything, but you know what I mean. We come into a bound version of Utthita Parsvakonasana, that extended side angle, checking if that's appropriate for us today. And sometimes it's sort of a natural thing, especially if the feet are quite far apart, for that back foot to sort of, for more weight to be in the on the inner side of the foot. So try to make that outer edge active. And then we're already coming down, and from here, reach that right arm towards the left foot. If you don't want that bind, that's fine. The left leg can stay where it is on the ground, but we want to twist. And maybe that right hand, instead of holding onto the foot, can be coming to the back or even to the left waist. Then we also want to make sure we're not sinking into that left shoulder. The arm is strong. And then rather than letting that left hip drop all the way down, let your right hip be heavy. As always, coming onto the outer edge of the right foot and pressing the knee out if you want to. And then really slowly coming out of this posture, tucking the toes under and into a bound version of that twist we've had before. Of course, that's optional as well. But maybe we're there. Maybe the body is ready. Sometimes the body's ready, the mind isn't. Sometimes it's the other way around. So find that sweet spot where you're comfortable, where you can hold. Change where you're looking, maybe. Are you looking up normally? Do you want to try and look to the back? Is it okay for your neck to do one of those, or do you need to change where the head is? And then slowly release. Hands on either side of that leg. And we slowly sink deeper, maybe all the way into Hanumanasana. Maybe the arms are up, maybe you're still holding yourself in place here. Of course, even though I teach without props, it's not that I find them terrible. It's just that this is how I learned. And I always think sometimes when we have those props, we rely on them. And then when we don't have them, we think, well, we can't practice without them. And there is so much that we can adapt and that the body can adapt without anything else. So here's one more adaptation that you could go for. But if you've still got your hands on the ground and you've got that right leg bent and you're in something that looks more like a really deep version of Anjaneyasana, then of course that's fine as well. It's just about giving yourself the option to deepen, whatever that means for you, and getting that same sensation out of the body that someone else might get when they look completely different. And we slowly release and walk that right foot to the left side. We'll gently push the hips down, But we try not to come into that Raj Kapot Asana, into that pigeon. We try and keep ourselves with the hips aligned and that heel and knee in one line, so parallel to the front of the mat. So it's a much deeper version and we're more active. Trying to keep the shoulders relaxed, of course. You're holding yourself here, of course, but make sure that the heaviness of the hips is kind of doing its own thing. You're not resisting that, you're holding yourself in the way that you need to. And then we come a little bit deeper. And that for lots of people, for most people, might mean that that right foot goes further towards the left hip, and that's completely fine. So now we are letting go. That right knee is on the ground. The right leg is comfortable, the left leg is comfortable. I mean, I'm saying that. I hope it is. Check if it isn't. And then you can just adjust that foot to something that is comfortable for you. You could turn the head to the right side. I'm holding on to that right foot for two reasons. One is my feet get quite cold all the time. The other one is I'm keeping it in place like that, in a place where I know it's okay to hold. Slowly come into child's pose. Take a little bit of time to observe how the right side feels very different to the left now. Something to look forward to for the left side. And I'm sure we all are. And then hopefully we're ready to come back up into the other side, starting with our mountain. And then we inhale and raise the left leg. We might exhale and press the hips a little bit. The hips go up. The shoulders a little bit further to the back and up, keeping that long line. And you could use every single exhalation here to deepen that posture for you a little bit. And not in a way that makes you uncomfortable, not in a way that anyone needs to see. Just a way that feels deeper to you. And sometimes that intensity of the posture just comes by staying. We're moving into Asana here, into that horse in motion, a high lunge. So left foot at the front, right heel off the ground. And we stay and find our perfect place of balance, which may or may not involve closing the eyes. Again, whether it is that balancing that we're kind of working on, the equilibrioception when we're closing the eyes, or whether it's something else, your flexibility or something that can change from one day to the next as well. Not so much if you're only doing one thing and one thing all the time. Open up into Warrior 2 now. And remember that left knee gently pushes to the left side. But it's also say you're doing a different workout that has changed your body in some way, and now you feel your feet and your ankles in a different way. That's going to affect your balance. Your state of mind very much, of course, affects your balance, because if you're distracted by something, the good, the bad, lots of things in between, that doesn't mean a calm peace of mind. I mean, when we say excited, most of the time we associate that straighten the left leg and drop down into Trikonasana. When we talk about excitement, depending on the culture as well, actually, it tends to mean positive excitement. Just as I think feedback is mostly something that we associate with something negative, but actually excited also can mean aggravated, can mean that negative side of the emotions that we don't want. And obviously the idea is that we try to stay within that calm equilibrium. We bend the leg again and we bind in our Utit Parso Konasana, or we just come into another variation of that extended side angle. But yeah, so this is why the idea of us staying in that middle, in that not excitement of the kind that we want more of, not the excitement of the kind that we want less of, that we push away, is actually what keeps us content. So anything that aggravates the mind can be good, it can be bad. We drop down, so hands to the ground, to the inside of that left leg, and then we twist, pushing that left knee out, maybe coming onto the outer edge of the foot, maybe not. And we may or may not decide to grab hold of that right foot with the left hand. But yeah, your class, your posture, And that doesn't just obviously go for the long held postures, but there it's even more important. The longer we stay, the more whichever effect it is that we're working on here. So we need to be aware of what we want to do, what we feel in a certain posture, to be able to make sure that what we're doing to the body is the right thing. If we're staying for a second, that's different than staying for 2 minutes. I mean, it makes complete sense. I don't have to explain that, I'm sure. Good. Now from here, release and come into that twisted lunge. Again, the option is to bind here, but you might decide just to keep that right hand on the ground. And another thing that we could do here, and that is obviously getting quite advanced, and I think a lot of these postures are not what make them so advanced. Just closing the eyes can make any posture advanced. I know we've done Vrikshasana, or if this isn't your first class with me, you will have done Vrikshasana with the eyes closed with me. So that tree pose where we're just standing on one leg. Why is that so hard? It's basic posture, but there's nothing basic about it. Release and either come into Hanumanasana or keep that left foot on the ground, left leg slightly bent, and just go as far down as is comfortable for you to hold. And it doesn't matter where that is. And for those who find that this is not sufficiently challenging, there is an option of deepening where you're gently giving that right hip a little bit more of a push down into the front by opening up the torso to the left side. So you're adding a little twist here, making things a little bit deeper for your body in this posture. And then hands to the ground, and completely optional, maybe dropping down the torso towards or onto that left leg. But while we're in these potentially quite deep postures, obviously, depends on where you are, but I'm assuming that wherever you are is deep for you. We always want to make sure we don't overdo it. And I think that's just as good a practice as any, whether that is on the mat, where it may be quite hard for us not to overdo it. But then if we think of other situations as well, maybe we challenge ourselves in our jobs, we're too hard on ourselves most of the time. So in this practice on the mat, just as much as off the mat, we want to make sure that we know where to stop, we know where to go that is beneficial for us, and we come into that variation of, so not that Rajkapot yet, so keeping your left knee and heel in line, just keeping that left leg off the ground. I mean, depending on you, of course, it might be that you're down at the bottom already there, in touch with the mat, but you might be very, very high, quite far away from the mat. It might be that you need to elevate your hands a little bit with blocks underneath you in order to have that alignment. But wherever you are, try and keep that alignment and keep the hips aligned as well, so that you can feel that more deeply. And then we let go, and that left foot can come in a little bit more. And if, like me, on the other side, you were turning the head to the right, then maybe on this side you can turn the head to the left. And this really is, I mean, that's the thing about Rajkapot Asana. It could be that for you, your heel is really close to your pubic bone and more in line with the knee, sort of in a straight line, aligned with the length of the mat. And that's okay too. Then you're just stretching into the glute, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that we haven't done lots of work for the hips already. And then slowly come up and make your way back into Balasana. Baby pose, child's pose. It's funny how Balasana, child's pose, their bal is translated as child, whereas in Anand Balasana, so also with bal in it, it's happy baby. Blissful child would be the literal translation, or blissful baby. And actually based on child's pose and what it is, that is more a baby than a child, being in that little leaf swimming across the ocean. I'm sure I've told that story before. And that signifies rebirth and that endless cycle of destruction and rebirth that is so characteristic of Hinduism and maybe the universe, who knows. We walk to the front. Sorry, I shouldn't have talked that much. We walk to the front and come all the way up to standing. Yes. Now, I'm so glad I spoke about Vrikshasana already. We're starting in Tadasana here. Feet together, big toes touch, rolling the shoulders to the back and down and sliding the fingertips down. And I would suggest that you're opening your eyes as you come into a Asana, not Vrikshasana. But you could choose that here as well. So this is just one of many options, grabbing hold of the right foot and guiding it to the right side as you look to the left and beyond your left hand. And you want to make sure that that supporting leg stays long, so don't shift your weight in any way. You want to get that length into the leg. And just focus on the spot in the distance. And if that becomes fairly easy for you to hold, then you could really look to your fingertips there. The closer we go, just as in the tree as well, the harder it becomes for that focus. It's like we don't have that oversight anymore. And from here into the wonderful Garudasana, the eagle pose, we sink down, keeping the shoulders above the hips. So try not to let yourself come forwards, not yet. And a gentle tucking of the tailbone will go a long way in helping that posture as well. We raise the arms nice and high, and elbows stay on top of each other. Hands could be together or apart. Yes, I'm leaving that in as well, just to show that nobody needs to be perfect. Not that I'm anywhere near, that's not what I'm saying. Elbows towards your belly button and round. This time we're coming forwards, we're rounding. And if balancing becomes too much, then you could bring your toes onto the ground as well. From here, we release and reach the arms up high. And we float the arms down. Back into Tadasana, the mountain. I was asked once if Parvatasana, if you say downward dog it means mountain, then what is this one? And I said, it's also a mountain. We have different mountains in this world, so different mountain postures as well. Now coming to the other side, take your time. Balance does not like being rushed. It rebels. So yeah, give yourself time. And enjoy holding that posture, and enjoy noticing the breath and keeping that awareness of the breath with everything else that's going on here as well. And length from that right heel all the way up to the crown of the head. As difficult as it is not to guide the breath, but be completely invested in it, completely aware of it, that's our aim. To observe whatever that pranic response is and whatever it may tell us about our body. And release from here into Garudasana. Hips and shoulders stay in one line. And then from here we raise our arms again, making sure that the elbows stay on top of each other. Whether the hands are together or not is not that important. In fact, sometimes it's much more comfortable to have them on the shoulders. And then slowly round your back, elbows to the belly button. And we come forwards and down. Again, if you're losing your balance here, then it's obviously completely fine to adjust, to bring the toes onto the ground, to have a little bit more footing here, a little bit more balance. And we release, coming up and floating the arms down. And then it's already time to come onto the back. Take the knees with you. And relax. Feel the length of your spine relaxed and the whole of the back on the ground. You might close the eyes. Now gently come into a twist. We might decide to hug the right knee in and guide it to the left side. We might decide to intertwine the legs or keep the knees together as both knees go to the left. And maybe the head turns to the right, giving your right shoulder a little bit of an incentive to stay heavy. And let yourself slowly get heavier and heavier here. Just letting go. Done lots of long holds where we were in control and we were holding ourselves in that particular shape. Here it's about being heavy. And change sides, slowly coming back up and then deciding, does this side want something maybe a little bit different? Where do we want to be? So left knee to the right, head to the left, but it doesn't have to look like this. And if that turning of the head doesn't work for you, so obviously I teach a lot. Mostly people like that because it's a nice stretch into the neck. Someone who I teach on a regular basis always says that's a really lovely stretch for the neck in itself, and she struggles with the neck. Someone else who struggles, has neck issues, says that she can't do that because it makes it worse. So just one of many examples of how we really need to know best with these things. You are really your best teacher. I'm just here for little pointers, I guess. Back into Pavan Muktasana, and maybe the arms are under the legs now, so you've got that feeling of relaxation both in the arms and legs. Feeling that you don't need to work very hard to keep yourself in this position. I think we've worked hard enough. And then we may or may not decide to come into a reclined angle, sleeping angle, supta. Supta is sleeping reclined, supta Baddha Konasana. If that's not for you, then choose something else that works better for you as you're coming into more stillness in that posture, grounding posture. Of course, we had a lot of stillness. This is all about that connection with the ground below you and allowing yourself to get heavier. And not just in my opinion, it's easier to do that when you're in a comfortable position. Unless you really want to challenge yourself. Sometimes a challenge can be a certain feeling of discomfort in the body that keeps you there, that keeps you focused, I suppose. Just like when we're meditating and sitting, it can be quite helpful to keep the spine straight, to keep us from falling asleep, for example. But choose something that's comfortable for you. Could be Shavasana if you prefer that, your corpse pose. And maybe just spend a little bit of time really tuning into the breath. It's hard enough to do that. It's hard enough to keep your mind focused on the breath. Sometimes we find that even after a couple of breaths, we're not actually focusing on that breath anymore and the mind has wandered. So as simple as it is, or as it sounds, it's also a very difficult thing. So we'll try that without giving ourselves a hard time, but really very consciously listening to every single in-breath and every single out-breath. Noticing how long we can do that. A couple of breaths, maybe less, maybe longer. And again, every time you notice that you have been thinking of something else, take it back to your breath. And maybe next time we'll stay with the breath for one more inhale, one more exhale. And just keeping up that interest in your breath, The most simple of things. It can be guided, but it doesn't have to be. And here it is. We're just noticing there's breathing going on. And then from this observation of the breath, we're going to observing the breath in the nostrils. Just feeling the sensation of the breath, that physical sensation of the in-breath and the physical sensation of the out-breath. The coolness of the in-breath. Even though the exhalation is exactly the same temperature as our body, we may start to feel that too. Just noticing the breath in the nostrils. And slowly stretch into the body, maybe with movements, maybe with stretches that we hold. So no need to open the eyes. You can get into that movement in a way that makes sense to you. Taking your time, staying where you want to stay, stretching where you want to stretch, and slowly maybe rocking up or through the right side of the body, coming to seated, with maybe a few more stretches if necessary, and then we'll settle in a comfortable seated position. You might not choose to sit on the heels if you started like that, but whatever works for you. And close off your right nostril with your thumb. The left hand stays idle for this. And as we did before, we just want to observe the breath. It's not that we're guiding it, just because we happen to be breathing just through that left nostril. And same on the left side, we close off the left nostril with the right hand, right fingers. Breathe in and out, let that breath happen through the right nostril. Same as before, no guiding. Just an observation of the breath. And then we could come into Anulom Vilom, or alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhan, the cleansing of the energy channels. Breathing in through the left nostril, closing off the right. Breathing out through the right, in through the right and out through the left. And we could take that from observing and just changing the hands whenever we feel that exhalation is happening. Or we could start gently guiding, but keeping in mind what that means, how you want the breath to feel, how you want your body to feel. That same calmness, but a little bit of guidance. Maybe in for 1 and out for 2. And we may even start holding the breath at the top. That classic ratio being in for 1, hold for 4, and out for 2. But I'd like you to not think too much about that and focus more on what still feels natural. Having spent so much time observing the breath. For some people it's actually quite hard to breathe in for long enough to make that ratio happen. So everyone has different challenges, and I want us to not go to a point where we feel we're straining. Finish that round you're on. And release your hands and observe your breath. The eyes can stay closed for the last few moments of the class. We rub our hands together, creating some warmth, some heat, And we place the palms over the face, gently pressing down. Slowly open the eyes and give yourself another moment here. And thank you for joining, everyone. When you're ready, bring the hands to the heart center.